Thank you. I will now call this special council meeting to order. Clerk Van, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruins,
I are present.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here.
and Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Here.
and Mayor Miller is absent.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Not have any public comment.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, are you ready for us to begin?
Yes, next item, please.
All right. Well, good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the council. We are pulling together this study session to really update the city council on the ARPA funding. As the council knows, this has been work that's been in progress for some months now, and the council acted very quickly on the bulk of this first round of funding in the area of public safety, which we're really proud of that action, and that money is being put to work. And so we really want to talk about the remaining of this year's funding, as well as have a discussion about next year's funding. So Bill Zanoni, our interim director of administrative services, and his team in finance will really take the council through what we know and where we are now. And we really are looking for direction tonight from the council. I would really like to bring this back in this next meeting and take action on particularly the remaining funding in this year's allotment. So with that, Bill, I'll turn it over to you and your team.
Good evening. There we go. I'm Bill Zanoni, Interim Administrative Services Director. This evening, Megan Huber and I together are going to walk you through an update on the American Rescue Plan Act. And at the end of our presentation, actually as we go, if there are questions, feel free to stop us. When we get towards the end, we're going to pause and hopefully get some direction from council. So what we wanted to start with this evening is the purpose of this workshop is a follow-up to the discussion that council had on August 12th when you received an update. We discussed moving forward with the American Rescue Plan Act fund allocation in a phased approach. We're now in phase 2, and we'll talk tonight about phase 2 and beyond. What we want to do is just quickly review again the background information on this legislation, discuss with you potential priority areas, and most importantly, receive input so that we can move forward. So just as a reminder, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 is an economic stimulus bill which was signed into law in March of this year. It provides a total of $1.9 trillion in fiscal recovery funds, with $350 billion of that amount allocated to state and local governments. And within that, $130 billion is allocated or designated for cities and counties. And of that amount, City of Citrus Heights allocation is $15.6 million. We were notified in March that was our allocation. The amount is to be paid in 2 installments. We received the first half of $7.8 million in May, and the second payment of $7.8 million, is anticipated to be received in about 6 months. It's supposed to be, according to their guidelines, 12 months after the first payment. So we would anticipate receiving that second installment in May, or hopefully no later than early June. Maybe go back one. There we go. So although the legislation was signed into law in March, the guidance on what that money can be used for was not released until May, and those were interim guidelines. That's the 150-page document that lays out. You would think with 150 pages it would be very, very detailed, but there's still a fair amount of questions. But that's the interim guidelines. The Treasury told us that the final guidelines would be released after a 60-day period to receive questions. So we anticipated those final guidelines being released late summer. That deadline was July. In the end of September, they issued a notification that the final guidelines would be issued. I think their exact words were late fall, and this was already the end of September. So late fall or thereafter. So as of right now, they have not issued the final guidelines, but they did. Their direction is to continue to operate under the interim guidelines until they tell us differently. So that's what we have to work with right now. So the overarching goal of the American Rescue Plan Act is to provide support to governmental agencies in responding to the negative impacts that were either caused or exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. The guidelines stress that this is one-time funding, although we're getting it in 2 installments, but it's one-time funding which must be obligated by December of 2014. If any of the funds are used for capital projects, it can be obligated by December 2024 and expended, fully expended 2 years after that. But unless it's for something with a contract attached to it, it's got to be spent by December 31st of 2024. If not, the funds are to be returned back to the federal government. So the guidelines provide 4 categories for expending these funds. The first category is to respond to the public health emergency or its negative economic impact resulting from COVID. For the first portion of that guideline, the public health emergency, examples of costs which don't necessarily apply to the city, but costs which would fall under that category would be COVID prevention and mitigation costs, such as vaccine programs, testing, and medical expenses. The city could decide to fund those types of activities. Costs associated with behavioral health care, which might include mental health treatment, crisis intervention, and services to promote access to social service programs, and public health programs, such as providing support to vulnerable population and providing access to health services. So those are the first portion as far as responding to the public health emergency. The second portion of that category is responding to the negative economic impacts of COVID, and that's where we think that portion of that category, we believe, applies more to the city of Citrus Heights. Examples that are within that category are providing grants for small businesses which have been negatively impacted by the COVID pandemic, providing aid to nonprofits, providing assistance to industries which were most severely impacted by the COVID pandemic, and the most significantly impacted industry across the United States is the tourism, travel, hospitality, entertainment industry. So they actually call that out in the guidelines as the most significantly impacted industry. And also, under this category is the ability to provide assistance to households that were negatively impacted by COVID in the form of assistance with rent, mortgage, or utility expenses. Also included within this category of negative economic impacts would be investments in affordable housing and neighborhood services to address socioeconomic disparities, funding of programs to address homeless issues, and a key expense under this category is rebuilding public sector capacity, which specifically identifies restoring government workforces up to pre-pandemic levels. And that's the category that the City Council took action on back in June. I think within a month of when you received the funds, you appropriated $5.3 million of that first $7.8 million allocation to restore 22 positions that were being held vacant in the police department. So as we go through and try and identify how these funds will be allocated, a key requirement that we have to keep in mind and document is the need to identify that a financial need is a direct result of the COVID pandemic. So we have got to identify a nexus between the need, the request, the need, and what we fund, and we have to document that and have that available if and when it's requested. And then we also have to identify and document how the expenditure of any ARPA funds addresses that identified need. So as we go through this process, that's kind of the key guiding principle that we have to keep in mind. The second category of eligible expenditures is the one that's the most complicated to calculate, but it has the least amount of restrictions on eligible uses, and that is the ability to replace lost revenue due to COVID. And for our city, this is a calculation that's made at 4 separate points in time, beginning in December of 2020 and for 3 calendar years after that. For Citrus Heights, we calculated the lost revenue in 2020 based upon the guidelines that were provided to be approximately $3.2 million. For 2021, our estimate is that number is going to be minimal or zero. So we think 3.2 million is pretty close to what we're going to have under this category for lost revenue. This is fairly flexible as far as what those funds can be spent on. They can be spent on infrastructure, such as roads or other capital projects. They can be spent on cyber security programs to strengthen cybersecurity, public safety costs, and just pretty much general government operating expenses. So there's wide flexibility in this category. And then the final 2 categories, which we don't believe are necessarily applicable to our operations, are premium pay for essential workers and investment in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So just as a reminder of the actions that Council has taken to date, we've provided 2 updates on the ARPA funding, the first on June 10th, the second on August 12th, and the action taken by Council for Phase 1 was to appropriate $5.3 million to restore public safety staffing. So Our total allocation is $15.6 million. We've earmarked or appropriated $5.3 million. That leaves $10.3 million remaining to be allocated. Looking at that a little bit differently, our first allocation in May was $7.8 million. We've actually received those funds. We've earmarked $5.3 million of those dollars for police department staffing. That means we currently have just a little bit under $2.5 million of the first allocation available to appropriate and spend. Once the second payment is actually received, at this point, I don't know any reason why we wouldn't receive it, but we don't have it yet, and we're dealing with the federal government. So once we do receive that additional $7.8 million, then we will have a total of $10 million to allocate. So with that background, I'm going to hand it over to Megan to move forward.
Bill, before we do that, Vice Mayor, can I ask some questions?
Absolutely. I was going to say, are there any questions from council members? Mr. Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Bill, we got the 7.8 million. We allocated 5.3 million. So we've got to decide something to do, I guess, with the other 2.5. But the 7.8 million that we got, where did we park that money? Does it go into the general fund reserve? Or did we create some other fund where we show that on our books?
We set up a separate fund, a subset of the general fund, but we set up a separate fund, and we're charging all of the expenses, well, the police staffing related expenses to that fund, so that we can we didn't want to commingle it and have to go back and try and separate it, because it's mostly salaries and related labor costs for police. So,
and then that 5.3 million will be spent over a certain time period. Rob, we obviously haven't spent it all at once, since we're doing these rehires, we're bringing people on, and that money is going to be able to go for that, correct?
That's correct. That $5.3 million was intended to cover 2 fiscal years.
Okay, and then so we had a financial report during the last meeting, which was much nicer than we had anticipated, but our bottom line was still not real great. We've got we've got a line of credit out there that we've got quite a chunk of money against. Do you know, or has it been thought of, if we are able to take that fund that is still there, and certainly not all of it, but maybe take some of it and loan it to the city in a sense, to where we could maybe pay down our debt if we wanted to, or whatever. But my question is just very general. Do you know if there's the ability to take something like that and loan it to the city so the money's there, it's up front, it's already here? Do something with it now, and then as we get those monies in that we've already budgeted in, that we would normally get in, as you explained during the last meeting, over a period of time, then replace that money, repay that loan into this fund. Does that make sense?
Sure. It does. And unfortunately, there are two items that are not allowed that these funds cannot be spent on. One is paying down debt, and the other is using them to replenish reserves. Those are the only two specific items that are excluded as eligible expenses.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, go ahead, Megan. Oh.
From which station? From which station?
I can't hear them and they can't hear us. Let me go back to the chat.
into it.
I don't know what kind of look I'm carrying today, but all right. Well, for those who are watching at home, we're experiencing some technical difficulties, and we're going to get them worked out.
Are you able to hear us now on Zoom? Let me go.
Okay, never mind. I heard you, Brad. It's Jeannie, but I'm off-site as well.
Okay, can you hear us now? I think we fixed the technical.
I can hear you, Amy. Yes.
Okay, shall we move along?
Yes.
Excellent. So with all of the information that Bill has laid out.
Hold on. Is Bill not with us?
He is.
Oh, he didn't hear the response that Bill gave.
Oh,
Oh,
well, back.
did anybody hear it?
I didn't hear it. No, I heard you, but no response.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So yes, well, no, there are two items that are not allowed as eligible expenses for these funds. The first is to be used for repayment of debt, which with making a payment on a line of credit would be, and the second is to use this funding to replenish reserves.
Okay, so we can't, I understand what you're saying. We can't create a loan type process. Can I ask you to go back to page 7 of your presentation for just a minute? And I had a question on that. Okay, thank you. So I'm looking at that page and I'm very happy to see that because what I want to hopefully see us do is somehow reach back out to the private sector, which is to me extremely important. We've already dedicated a lot of this money to the public sector, but reaching out to the private sector is something I'm hoping my fellow council members are going to support. And so, Bill, when I look at this, literally when I see something as far as tourism, travel, and hospitality, can you give me an example of what that would be? I mean, what are we going to do? Give everybody a Southwest Airlines travel voucher somewhere?
No.
How would we even do that?
So examples, some cities that have hotels are using some of these funds to provide assistance to that portion of the industry. An example in Citrus Heights, it's travel, tourism, travel, hospitality, and entertainment. So it could be something in our city, could be something like the movie theater. That would be an example, and it's something that was directly impacted by the COVID pandemic.
Okay,
And-
like even maybe perhaps our little theater or little playhouse?
Sure.
Yeah, they were shut
Yes.
down, no doubt about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And then on the small business grant side, so same thing with small businesses, they would have to show that they were impacted in some way, and then we might be able to do something with that. Businesses that had to close down, anything like that? I mean, are there going to be
Yes.
like
Yeah,
100
and they don't
different
even have to have been
restrictions?
closed down if they just have to have been negatively impacted by COVID. So, I mean, certainly if they had to close and are trying to reopen, but if there was a hardship that they can demonstrate And typically, there's ways to do that. They can provide their, their tax return. There's ways to demonstrate that, but there just has to be a connection between their operations and the pandemic.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
I do have a question now, and that is, if some of those businesses receive PPP loans or some other kind of way that they've already been compensated, would that offset what they might be eligible for, or is there a double dipping allowed there, or?
I think that is something that we could put in our guidelines to ask that question, that if they received any other federal assistance, and then use that in making a determination whether they were eligible.
Okay.
I think that's good, yeah.
All right, if there are no other comments or questions, Megan, go ahead.
Thank you. So as Bill has laid out, there are a plethora of considerations and parameters that we must account for as we're standing up the next phases of our ARPA allocation funding. It's an extremely, it's a situation with much gravity, given that these are one-time funds that we're responsible for stewarding effectively and to meet direct need in our community. As Bill also mentioned, we are restricted in liquid availability of the funds and have to take that into account in our planning as well. Finally, as Bill mentioned, the guidelines are still interim, so we need to move in a very intentional manner to manage all of those factors, and would like to present to you now the foundation that we have built for our Phase 2 ARPA funding allocation and beyond. So first and foremost, last time we were before council on August 12th, we shared how the guidelines underscored a strong recommendation to maximize community engagement around ARPA spending. That is how we know how we can spend the funds in the most effective manner, and how we ensure equitable and inclusive access to this opportunity. So staff since then has stood up a really comprehensive landing page to serve as a central resource for all things ARPA information. We have provided Cliff's Notes on the guidelines to be able to educate our resident and business community in the challenge that we're grappling with here, a great challenge, by the way. And on the central landing page, we also have our community survey results for folks to view. If you recall, that was the other action item that we promised council, was a COVID community survey to be able to quantify and have substantive data to be able to build the foundation that we're reviewing to ensure that we're deploying these funds most effectively. And I'm very happy to report an extremely successful and statistically valid survey. We used our signature flash vote system, which is email engagement direct to our residents and businesses that we also supported with social media communications. These are third-party expert-designed questions to be able to ensure that we're getting to the meat of the matter. In order to ensure it's statistically valid, flash vote stays open for a period of 48 hours. But again, to ensure equitable and inclusive access in this data gathering, we extended the survey via Google for a longer period of time to make sure we're capturing all the data that we can. Also important to note that it was translated into 3 different languages for our diverse community. So a quick summary of the flash vote survey results. It was important to us to gauge the knowledge of ARPA, of the folks that we were responding. And it was about a third, and a third of folks who were not familiar with ARPA funding, folks who were somewhat familiar, and then about a third of folks who were very familiar. So the survey served as a great education tool as well. And the survey also drilled down, once we educated around the guideline restrictions, we drilled down into potential different bucket categories of allocations, which we'll review later and show a nexus between the COVID recovery map phasing that we've designed, how it's meeting those community needs. So with that, this is the next phase in our timeline, as well as what we see moving forward. As Bill mentioned, we completed phase 1 in May of this year to restore police department staffing levels using around $5.3 million of ARPA funding. We are before you in the really important feedback gathering steps so that we can design phase 2 in the best and most effective way possible, which will target recovery mechanisms to support small businesses, nonprofits, as well as the travel, tourism, and entertainment industry. We project that once phase 2 is rolling and we receive the second installment of ARPA funding, which Bill mentioned we're expecting in May, although again, that's evolving, we will be ready in spring of 2022 to deploy towards priority needs that you see listed here that are supported by community survey data, including homelessness prevention, blight abatement, and housing and resident support. And finally, we project that phase 4 will be in summer of next year to address the allocation of the revenue loss portion of the ARPA funding, which, as Council recalls from Bill's synopsis, can include potential infrastructure initiatives, which, as Bill mentioned, revenue loss projections right now are about $3.2 million, which means for phase 2 and phase 3, as we're looking to deploy programs that address these community COVID recovery needs, we have the task before us to allocate around $7.1 million. And that's the conversation that we'd like to start having today, is how we prioritize and phase this deployment. Bill, anything to add while we're on this slide? Okay. So the chart that you see here are the community COVID recovery needs that were prioritized by survey takers. An important distinction here is the question did not ask them to prioritize these needs. It asked them how you would split a dollar to deploy funding among these recovery needs. So you can see how these initiative buckets are directly related to the ARPA COVID recovery guidelines. Coming in with phase 2, there was strong support to spend substantive portions of a hypothetical dollar to support local businesses and nonprofits with grants, as well as address shopping center vacancies caused by COVID. Potential nexus there, certainly with entertainment as well, given that there are highly visible vacancies as it relates to entertainment usage. And then moving into the phase 3 that we talked about, our survey subjects allocated a significant portion of a dollar to address homelessness problems and then also help residents recover from the impacts of COVID-19, which fits into our phase 3 allocation mechanism. And then finally, phase 4, although a high priority spending of that dollar, investing in city infrastructure, if you recall, infrastructure investments falls under revenue loss. which will not be finalized until, one, we receive the second installment of the funding, and two, we have that final revenue loss calculation. So to dive a little deeper into the foundation that we'd like to build for phase 2 and where we would like City Council's feedback this evening to ensure we're doing it in the most effective way to be able to maximize recovery, we envision that the phase 2 program to deploy small business and nonprofit support, the process will identify how applicants will demonstrate COVID impact in that application and approval process, hearkening back to Councilmember Daniel's question and also Councilmember Shaver's question around considerations like PPE and similar. We want to be really intentional about how we're designing this application process to make it easy. We know there are businesses who need support, and we also need to think all the way around it as well. So we'll define the use of the funds during that process. We also need to determine funding amounts. So if you recall back in the chart, phase 2 and phase 3 together have around $7.1 million to allocate. That's a conversation that we need to have is, what portion of that hypothetical dollar do we allocate to each of those COVID recovery needs? And we also envision a separate program to support that travel, tourism, and entertainment industry recovery section that was called out by the U.S. Treasury as the most impacted and in-need industry for ARPA recovery. And because it's most impacted, we see that having unique needs in terms of program guidelines and COVID impact definition as well. So next steps, once we receive and are able to incorporate feedback, we'd certainly like to keep this ball moving down the field quickly. So we anticipate coming away from study session with really great feedback from you and coming back to you December 9th via a department report to present and refine these phase 2 program principles that we're talking about via an outline based on tonight's discussion and feedback. We'd like to come away with a recommendation for funding allocations for the phase 2 programs. And at that time, we'd also like to invite business community feedback and input. We feel that that is a perfect time to be able to do that when we have the bones of program principles together so that we can have a more substantive conversation with our business community, continue to refine it into really sharp and actionable guidelines, which we would then bring back to you at the January 13th council meeting as an action item to approve the phase 2 program guidelines and appropriate the funds for the phase 2 programs.
Wonderful. So I'm going to open it up for any council comments and feedback.
Oh, gosh, that's a lot to digest. Could you go back
The chart.
to the slide, this one? The one you just, the next one, please. So I was trying to stay with you, Megan, when you're describing the results from the survey. And I recall you stating the heavy response and support for the helping residents in the homelessness. And, wait a second. Oh, I read that wrong before. Okay, never mind my question. But I guess my overall question is, given the percentages we got in the way of public feedback, why you laid it out the way you did? You basically you didn't follow like top to bottom, but and I'm not questioning it from a critical standpoint. I'm just trying to understand it.
Yeah.
So was the next priority basically for us to address the needs of business? That's our next priority after law enforcement staffing. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And then from there, the residents, and from there, city infrastructure, and then the leftovers.
Correct. And
right.
the reason for that is availability of liquid funds, as Bill laid out. Right now, there's about 2 million and change in ARPA funding available. So we need to match actionable items with the resources that are available. So when we look at things like homelessness prevention, blight abatement, and housing and resident support, it's our intention to use a large portion of that funding and to lay that out over a course of 2 years. Number one, we'll ultimately need more than that 2 million to create actionable recovery in the phase 3 column.
Right.
And then number two, we have also heard from council in strategic planning that deploying business support for COVID recovery is a priority.
And it is. And so the supportive business funding from phase could start with phase 1 money too, or do
Yes,
we?
absolutely.
Okay, and
Yes.
so the actual percentages are fluid. So if we saw an opportunity to really strengthen business in Citrus Heights, we could support that financially. It means taking some away from something else, I understand. But if that, as time goes on, if that looks like what we need to do, then we could do it, as I understand.
Absolutely. And staff will also work to tee up the programs that are in phase 3 to be ready for when the second installment is received.
Okay.
So,
May I ask another question?
absolutely.
Okay, so looking at phase 1, we are done with phase 1, so that do I understand that correctly? We have allocated what we're going to allocate for policing recovery, even though it may not all be spent yet, and clearly it isn't because it's a payroll issue. So the 5.353 million is that we've capped that for law enforcement?
That is correct. That is the amount that was calculated as the cost to restore the 22 positions that were being held vacant in the police department.
Okay.
The council could decide, as part of the lost revenue, when you get to that point and that discussion, those dollars could be, again, they're one-time dollars, so you don't necessarily want to use them for staffing, but those dollars, you have great flexibility with what you want to use those dollars for.
Okay. So, what's the timeframe? Refresh my memory on the spending of the 5.3. It's all going to be spent up front, but I know part of it's recruiting, training, but some of it is payroll support.
It's mostly payroll or salary and benefits, and it's over a 2 fiscal year period, this year and next fiscal year.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Councilmember Daniels, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. One question, when we start deciding how we're going to hand this money out, will that take council approval on all levels or any level at all?
It'll definitely take city council approval as far as appropriating the funds. So we will come back to you with resolutions appropriating these dollars for the general categories. And then it's up to you as far as getting down to the level of detail as approving individual loans, if you want to set the guidelines and then have reports back on how those funds were dispersed, or if you want to actually approve each individual loan. That's a council decision, but you will definitely be involved in appropriating the funds.
Thank you. And I think we should see that, we should set a number that I think is fairly low, because I think it's going to be very important to the community, to the taxpayers, to say that we had a direct hand in what was decided, and not just say that, well, we set $1 million for this and somebody else decided. So I'm hoping my other council members will want to see those kind of requests come back. And Bill, you just used the word loan. Are these loans or
No,
are
I'm
these?
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, I didn't think
Grants,
that was right.
grants.
That was my question too, yeah.
You can't, there is an option to do loans, but if you
Okay.
do loans, we have to turn around and use them again and by
Okay.
the end of the 3 year, so grants, I should say
Understood.
grants.
Yeah.
Understood. And then, just a couple of comments. I really hope that what we focus on when we're looking at small business recovery, and let me just say this first. I hope that we don't look too much towards nonprofits in this, because we've done a lot with nonprofits, and I don't know that has suffered through this so much in what I'll call our normal or regular help with nonprofits. So I'm not against that at all, but I'm just hoping that we understand what I feel is the whole purpose of this act was to rescue American businesses mainly. And so I'm hoping that we look to prop up businesses that have the ability to then move forward with the future with success, and not simply, they had a problem and they dealt with it or whatever. They've recovered from it, and not that we can't go back and help with a little bit of that or whatever, but hopefully what we're looking for are funds that can go to businesses that may still even be struggling, and they have a plan to move forward. The plan is reasonable and they will be a success, because then eventually, if they're retail or whatever, eventually some of those funds will come back in the form of, taxes and stuff like that. So hopefully we're very careful with that and not just giving money. And I think we will be careful. And then the final thing was in phase 3. I don't feel that this plan was necessarily put together to deal with things, and these are like one-time things: blight abatement, homelessness prevention, housing and residential support. I could see us supporting people who are still affected by COVID, who may be on the verge of homelessness because of that. But there have been a whole lot of programs that have already been in place, rent relief and whatnot. And so I would hope that we're being very careful in that respect. And again, really coming back with a harder stance and a harder support for small businesses to actually recover because of what happened with COVID. That, I think, is where the main hurt has happened. I would love to see us working a lot with our non-corporate type of restaurants, our mom and pops and stuff like that, hopefully, and seeing, who we can keep open, or if they had to close down, they can open up again and again, be a success. I think it's really important for people who want these funds to show how they're going to be a success. And then again, I'm really kind of leery on how much we do with it towards homelessness. And that's obviously not to say that that's not important. It's extremely important, and we're using a lot of funds for that. And other funds are coming in from different directions, and we've propped that up already with some other funds that came in. And so I think we've done pretty good there. And whereas I don't think we've done a whole lot, we can hopefully do more for small businesses. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Daniels. Councilmember Schaefer?
So certainly, I'd like to sort of back up Councilmember Daniels' statement. I think I'd like to see the bulk of Phase 2 and Phase 3 funds go to small business. I think the big boxes we've shown, the big boxes have done quite well through the pandemic. I would love to see a competitive grant program put together so that the small businesses can really truly demonstrate how they've been affected by COVID. Such a perfect example is Sunrise Rollerland, where that couple really did struggle. But that's just, I don't want to pick on them particularly, but I would say that there's other businesses that could demonstrate the real need. With also the emphasis on this competitive grant program, they would want to show us what they're doing to attract more business to Citrus Heights. And not just to say, well, okay, we're going to repave the parking lot because we want it to look nicer. We want to do things that really would bring customers to Citrus Heights. So I certainly would like to see that. As far as the homelessness prevention, the blight abatement, I would say that the bulk of these funds, the Phase 2 and Phase 3, really do need to go to small business. If we put this out there and only 10 businesses actually apply for it, and we have funds that are left over, certainly we can look at some of these other items that really are more broad in terms of, because I'm not even sure what it would look like if we were, maybe you could give me an example of how we would support housing and resident support. What would that look like? Is there an example of that we
Well,
would?
one example could be affordable housing.
Okay.
And an example within that category, in Citrus Heights, we have a qualified census tract, and that, again, that's called out in these guidelines. So Sayonara, it needs to be built there, that some of these funds could go to help make those affordable housing. That would just be an example of a possibility.
Okay. I think I've said my piece with regard to, I'd like to see a competitive grant program put out. I'd like to see a serious effort to market this, whatever this is, through the entire city, not just certain segments of it. And I'd like to see a nice wide channel of businesses that I would like to see this exposure get out there and really do a strong campaign to advertise that this money is available.
That's our specialty.
Yes, absolutely.
Councilmember Schaefer, if we can, I'd love to just dig a little bit deeper on feedback from you, especially from an economic development perspective, as we're talking about homelessness in particular. To be frank, right now, that's one of the largest complaints that we do hear from businesses, right? The businesses who stayed in operation during COVID, who don't necessarily have year-over-year income statements that show loss, but have had this experience of fighting the battle of crime prevention through environmental design and keeping their business safe and secure in less than desirable circumstances.
I would see this as a wonderful opportunity for them to bring their ideas forward on how we might to address their concerns with homelessness.
I hear you. Thank you for that.
Okay, I have a couple comments before we're done here. And you mentioned, Megan, that the survey, the flash vote, was done in 3 languages. Could you tell me which 3 they were?
English was the baseline. Spanish, Russian, Ukrainian.
Wonderful. And so when we're going through, we're looking for these applications for these grants for these small businesses. I would like to see more of that, right? Because what we're trying to do is make sure we're having some diversity and equity. We know that we have a huge Slavic population and Hispanic population in our city. And these are people who are first or second generation who may not be able to understand. So a lot of hand-holding is going to be necessary. So while I understand Councilmember Schaefer's sentiment about making it competitive, I think that by doing that, we might actually detract and deter some people from actually participating in the process. So finding a nice way to strike a balance there and making sure that we're also, like I said, addressing that diversity and inclusiveness, and also looking at, homelessness is a big deal. I know that a lot of business owners have complained about that. We see it in our inboxes about, what can we do about this? So asking for community input about how, what their ideas are around design and how we can make things better, that's amazing, but it's really our job to, to really figure that out and help them solve the problem, not to put the burden back onto them.
Just a follow-up, if I may.
Yes.
I don't think that those priorities are mutually exclusive. I believe that we can incorporate reaching out to the different language groups with the competitive grant protocol. If that's as being part of it, we just make sure that we do it in their language so they can understand that this is their opportunity. So I think it would be a good idea to make part of it competitive, but if there's a real need, and we've got the funds, that we support that need if they can show us that it's going to help them survive and move forward and do the things that we've mentioned tonight, like encourage more business in Citrus Heights and so forth. It's not, in my mind, it's not an either or, it's a both, so. But I think we're all, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're all kind of on the same page that we need to support our business community.
Exactly.
Mayor Middleton, I just wanted to note that the mayor has joined the Zoom as well.
Thank you. Welcome, Mayor Miller.
I've been here for about a half hour listening in, and I concur with we talk
Not specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a great loss there. I thought these funds qualified for. I also would like to see the Navigator program expanded. Doesn't seem like it'd be too much money, and again, benefit our businesses and our residents with the intervention. And also, I think Bill brought it up. We still have the housing units to replace in Sayonara, and it shouldn't be a huge investment, but that is a way to get low-income housing in our city. So I would support all the items discussed tonight, plus those that I added.
The Navigator program would fall under the homelessness prevention. So that is an example under that category. And the community center, actually, the loss in revenue from the community center is a good portion of that contributed to the revenue loss. So if the council were to allocate any funds to the community center, it would fall under the lost revenue category.
In phase 4, right, Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I do have one quick comment. I know we're getting short on time, but I would just like to address certainly the competitive grant program. I think that there are some of the segments of our community that there were some concerns that Vice Mayor Middleton brought up with regard to language barriers. Having interacted with several of the folks there, they're a very tight-knit community. I do think we could round up committees that could address those issues to help them, like we talked about hand-holding. The trust that comes from somebody speaking their language is
Yes.
super important.
Yeah.
And reaching out to I can think of a few people that could really be of great assistance in that respect. So I'd certainly like to work with staff to identify those individuals that might be of great assistance in that respect.
I appreciate that so much. Trusted advisors are so important in local community initiatives.
Well, if there is not anything else, we can take a 2-ish minute break and come back to general session.
Okay, we are now live and ready to begin.
Good evening. I will now call the Wednesday, November 10th, regular city council meeting to order. Mr. Schaefer, if you would lead us in the flag salute, please.
Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
To the Republic,
one nation
Stand.
under God,
One nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next item.
The next item is roll call. Councilmember Bruins,
Present.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here?
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Here.
and Mayor Miller.
here.
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and live streamed at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Sunday, November 14th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14, and the meeting can also be viewed on the city's YouTube channel.
Next item, please.
Next item is approval of agenda.
I move approval.
Second?
Okay, motion by Councilmember Bruin, second by Councilmember Daniels. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Next item.
Next item is a proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights recognizing Community Development Director Colleen McDuffie for her service to the City of Citrus Heights. And I will turn it over to City Manager Christopher Boyd.
Well, thank you, Amy. Good evening, members of the City Council. You know, it's always bittersweet and difficult to bid farewell to a respected staff member, but our Community Development Director, Colleen McDuffie, as you know, is retired. And Colleen served the city for 20 long years with the utmost dedication and perseverance. She started her career with the city of Citrus Heights in 2000 as a senior planner. Due to her diligent performance and innovative thinking, she was promoted to the position of planning manager within a span of just 5 years. And after that, she continued to work hard and was appointed to the position of Community Development Director in early 2020. And during her tenure, she has had a significant role in many of our major projects, including the adoption of the city's first general plan, the creation of the Stock Ranch Specific Plan, the comprehensive update and reorganization of the city's zoning code, and the adoption of our first greenhouse gas reduction plan. She was also instrumental in bringing Costco, Walmart, the SBA, City Hall, the medical office building, Mitchell Farms, and many others to fruition. She also had a significant role in guiding the Sunrise Mall plan the council will be hearing tonight. And as we know, that project will be pivotal for the future economic health and revitalization for the city. Colleen's unwavering commitment to the community's quality of life is undeniable, and her continued efforts and outstanding leadership speaks volumes. It's been an absolute pleasure having her on my executive team. Her work has truly made a lasting impact and one that has changed our city for the better in so many ways. The words cannot express my gratitude and appreciation for you, Colleen. And while you'll definitely be missed, the great work you did here ensures that you will not be forgotten. So thank you for your dedication and friendship, and congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. And with that, Vice Mayor, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. As you can see, our city manager has really outlined all of the great things that Colleen has done for our community and for our community. And we have a proclamation for her. Most of this has been covered, but there's one part that really sticks out that I want to make sure I read aloud. And it says, to work alongside Colleen McDuffie was to witness her heartfelt commitment to her profession and this community's past, present, and future residents. Colleen always fostered a spirit of fairness and compassion, which will forever remain the truest testament to her character, integrity, and humility, and will, after all is said and done, be her greatest legacy. Therefore, it be resolved that the City Council of Citrus Heights does hereby commend Colleen McDuffie for her many contributions, steadfast dedication, and exceptional service, extending her the sincerest gratitude and appreciation for all she has done for the city, this community, and all those who live, work, and play here. She has been a steadfast guiding hand in making sure that this city has become what it has over the last 20-plus years. And I wish her the best in her retirement. And I would like to open it up to any comments from council members. Mr. Schaefer, do you have anything?
I'd be delighted to participate in this. This is, when I first came to the Planning Commission, I was working with Colleen. She was welcoming. She was incredibly honest and straightforward about in how she conducted business. Any questions I had, she was right there. I just can't express enough how much that I'll miss her. I'll miss seeing her around the city hall. She's just super delightful and just was wonderful to work with. And best of luck, Colleen. It really was a pleasure.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you. Gosh, Colleen, how fast 20 years has gone. I remember when you were hired, I was working for the chamber at that time, and I recall how pleased Janet Ruggiero that we stole you away from Roseville. And so that was a real great start. But you know, one of the things that I want to leave with you, and it was alluded to a bit in what Vice Mayor Middleton read, but and that is that one of your shining accomplishments that will last a long time is the fact that you've developed your staff to succeed you, so that what you have begun and worked on for the last 2 decades will continue on without a hitch. And so I'm very grateful, of course, for all that you've done for our community, but especially for the fact that you've developed your staff to carry on the work that you've begun. I just wish you all the best. I will miss you as well. You're one of our longest staying employees, and I know Casey will do a great job filling your shoes, but it won't be easy. Thanks so much.
Councilmember Daniels?
Thank you. You know, there are very few people that touch so many sections and parts of our success in Citrus Heights, and Colleen is certainly one of them and near the top. The uniqueness about Colleen is that she's well-known not only within the city and the staff, but also the community and the things that had to get done to make us a success. You have been incredible. I have appreciated you when you have schooled me in the fashion of more about, I'll say, like a loving mother, and when I needed to be schooled. And you will be incredibly missed, And again, there are very few people that I can think of, very few, that will leave their fingerprints on the success of Citrus Heights the way that you have. You will be missed, and I want to thank you dearly for the dedication that you have shown to make our city a success. Thank you so much.
Mayor Miller, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Vice Mayor Middleton. Trouble with going last is everything you want to say has been said. Colleen, I'm truly going to miss you. You're really soft-spoken, and you were fair and you were firm, but you did carry a big stick. I mean, you enforced very fair policies, and yeah, I hearken back to the dynamic duo of Janet and you, and I miss Janet, and I think I'm going to miss you just as much. I wish you well with all your future endeavors, Colleen. Good luck.
Thank you.
And Colleen, just so you know, we have these beautiful flowers here for you.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll make sure that they get hand-delivered to you, and we also have your proclamation here, signed by all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much for your dedication, and I would like to open it up for you to say a few words if you would like.
Yeah, sure. Just a few words. I'd really like that. First, gosh, thank you, Council, so much for your very kind words. They really mean a lot to me, and also City Manager Boyd for your words as well. I consider myself very, very fortunate that I have been able to work here in Citrus Heights for so many years. I love this community. I've loved getting to know so many residents over the years through all the different projects. Throughout the years, one thing that has been constant, and that has been the support of the City Council, and that has always meant a lot to me. And it's always helped me a lot to be able to do my job. And I've also appreciated the support and the leadership of Chris Boyd, especially these last couple of years once I became the Director of Community Development. I believe our staff here in Citrus Heights is the best, and I know that working with you, all of you are going to continue to do great things. Really excited, especially about Sunrise Tomorrow, which we'll be talking about later tonight. I live very close by, and I will always be nearby watching and be cheering for continued success in Citrus Heights. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Next item.
The next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
Okay, Councilmember Daniels, you want to kick us off?
Sure, thanks. No board meeting. Let me see. Yesterday, I had the privilege to attend the Citrus Heights Chamber Luncheon and listen to a presentation. Hold on, excuse me. I'm going to try to make it stop. Okay. Listen to a presentation from Republic Services on our future of recycling all of our food, and so that was nice. And then I want to wish tonight a very happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps, 246 years old today. My Marine Corps son is celebrating by being on an airplane headed to Japan for the next 6 months, and I want to thank him publicly for that. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. Us would be here today in the fashion that we are, free without veterans. And I'm hoping that everybody will take the opportunity to reach out and thank a veteran. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And so please do that. And also tomorrow we will be having a ceremony at the Sylvan Cemetery for Veterans starting at 11 a.m. So if you could make that, please come out to that. On Saturday, November 13th, from 10 a.m. to I think 12 p.m. at the Citrus Heights Town Center, there will be a program called Reptiles Take Over. It's for kids. It's got a DJ and crafts and animals and stuff like that. So if you get a chance, go out there and support our local businesses at the Citrus Heights Town Center, Citrus Town Center. That's at Sunrise and Greenback, and take your kids with you. Coming up, if you can believe it, is Christmas. And since we're not meeting before this, I want to let everybody know that Santa will in fact be at the Sunrise Mall this year. He'll be there from November 18th through December 24th. So get up there, support our mall, and get a picture with Santa and make it a fun time. And then finally, I believe on December 4th, Toys for the Troops Kids will kick off its 19th annual toy drive at the same center, the Citrus Town Center at Sunrise and Greenback. And they'll be there through December 19th. So December 4th through December 19th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., collecting toys for our military troops. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Burns?
Thank you very much. I had a Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District meeting this morning. We had some updates on our EcoWater project and approved some grant funding. It was a relatively short meeting, so there's not a whole lot to report from that. And following that, we had a PAL board meeting, and just very proud of our PAL board and our officers in particular for all that they have been doing for the kids during the COVID time that we've been enduring. We had our second annual reverse trunk or treat, and very happy to report that it was very successful. It was bigger than the last year. We partnered with Dignity Health. They helped sponsor it. And they allowed us to expand it into their parking lot, which greatly reduced the wait time for people. We had over 2,000 people come through. Last year, we estimated somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000. This year, they had a pretty accurate count on that. And we had, not only did we have exhibits done by our police department, but we had exhibits done by the community as well. And so no doubt in my mind, this will be an annual event. I want to thank everybody who participated. I'd like to thank the Sunrise Marketplace and Stones for supporting it with a monetary donation and candy. We actually ran out of candy and had to go and buy more because there were more people than we anticipated, and even had to help some of the other exhibitors refill their candy supplies because they also ran out of candy. So it was a very successful event. I want to thank them for that again. We got a report from on our vape project, which is a grant that funds it, teaching kids the hazards of vaping, and also doing outreach to the business community to not sell to the kids. And we partnered with the county and visited 10 businesses, 5 in Citrus Heights and 5 in the county, with a decoy, basically an underage person, to see who would or wouldn't sell to them. Very happy to report that 100% of the Citrus Heights businesses were in compliance, did not sell. Unfortunately, the county businesses fared not so well, so county's got some work to do to help protect our kids from that as well. We are going to be doing Shop with a Cop this year, but it's going to be done virtually with cautions relating to COVID. So that will be done on the 15th of December. We also will be having our holiday that's already been kicked off, our holiday gift to needy families. So that's on our website for all the dates on that. And then I also wanted to mention that a week ago Saturday, I attended a ceremony at the Roseville Cemetery, which was a dedication ceremony for Gold Star families. And these are the families of military personnel who have lost their life in the line of duty. And one of our longtime citizens, Tanya Wagner, is a Blue Star mom, and her daughter is a Gold Star daughter. So they are a Gold Star family. And it was a wonderful dedication. Jim Monteaton and his wife were there as well. But I'd just like to take this moment, because Veterans Day is tomorrow, to honor and support the families of veterans, because they experienced their losses for decades past the event itself. And those of us who have veteran fathers and veteran brothers are so grateful that they did come home safely. And so I'm going to take Councilmember Brett Daniels' suggestion and thank a veteran by flying out tomorrow morning to Michigan to go say hello to my brother Jim, who's a Vietnam veteran, and personally thank him for his service and spend some time with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I'm going to depart just a tidbit from the sentiments of my fellow council members. I just want to convey support for Mesa Verde High School, who has, I don't want the incident where a student was selling a new kind of drug called paint. And I just want the school to know that that doesn't define who we are as a community. And while we seem to be getting a lot of press, it's being carried across the country. And I just want to remind folks that, you know, those folks over at Mesa Verde High School work very hard, and they really deserve our support in a time where there's at least a small crisis going on. So just wanted to convey that support to them. Also, I'm a veteran myself. I have a fellow council member, Brett Daniels, is also a veteran, and I do want to thank veterans everywhere, and I will certainly be out at the cemetery tomorrow to honor our fallen veterans and the veterans in general. And then later this month, it's just coming so early this year, have dear family members that happen to be Jewish, and so the Hanukkah festivities kick off on the 29th and go through December 6th. So I want to wish all of the Jewish families in our community a happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Mayor Miller?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As most of you are aware, Monday we did the State of the City address, and I just wanted to say what a wonderful job Nicole Baxter did putting the whole thing together. Chris Boyd and Alex Turcotte did a great job, and a lot of our community members. So I was very proud to be part of that. And if you haven't seen it, you can go to our website. It's been taped, and there's a rebroadcast of it if you'd like to watch it. And also a way to take the survey at the end that was live, but you could still take the survey. Please go to our website. Then yesterday, I traveled to Orlando for regional transit along with the general manager, Henry Lee, and City of Sacramento Councilwoman Katie Valenzuela. And we accepted the award from the American Public Transportation Association for the 2021 Outstanding Public Transportation System. And I'm so proud of the entire RT staff and the job they've done through this pandemic, and this award really solidifies that. I think I'm setting the record for being the furthest from a council meeting. I'm in Hoover, Alabama with my veteran daughter. We're going to celebrate Veterans Day tomorrow. And had the pleasure tonight of watching my grandson's team win the football championship. They came back in the fourth quarter to win 12-7.
All right.
I've got my fan club here. And that's really all I have to report.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't have much to report, but I do want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues about making sure you're out there, you are talking to your veterans, thanking them, and really showing your support. My father and all of his siblings were all in the military, each in one branch, and it's important that we make sure they know we support them. Also, Councilmember Schaefer, thank you for bringing up the issue about the new drug on the streets, paint. It was well overdue time for me to have that conversation with my 10-year-old child about peer pressure. So I encourage all parents with young children to start having those conversations early if possible to protect our kids and our youth. And with that, we'll move on to the next item.
Next item is public comment, and members of the public may address the council on any agenda item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please either complete a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself, and if participating via Zoom, use the raise hand function or *9 from a telephone to indicate your desire to speak. When your name is called, I will allow you to unmute your microphone. I do not have any written public comment. We did receive one speaker card for public comment, and I do see one raised hand.
Okay, we'll take the speaker card. If we could have Mary Jane Lopez, please come up. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. In light of the special session that we just witnessed, I wanted to really express my support as a small business owner, as a chamber member, that I am excited about the Phase 2 allocation to the small business community. I do have a suggestion. I would like to suggest the addition of some community members to sit alongside as an advisory committee to be involved with the deliberations with staff and council members in receiving, evaluating, and eventually allocating those funds. I think it will be a valuable voice from our community members, especially as small business owners, to have this partnership. And of course, I would like to volunteer as one of your small business owners. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
And
we had some raised hands.
we do have one raised hand from a telephone call-in. The last 3 numbers end in 640, and you have been allowed to speak. And if you can unmute yourself and state your name. Are you able to unmute yourself on the telephone? Okay, there we go. If you could state your name.
Arthur Kitterling.
Hi, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, it might not even take that long. I just wanted to find out two things, and that is, did you choose a chief of police yet for Citrus Heights, and what is the interest part that is being charged with Citrus Heights on those loans that you were talking about tonight on the special meeting?
So, Arthur,
And that is
Hi, Arthur. We do have a police chief at this point. His former Commander Turcotte. He is our police chief. And when it comes to the interest rates on the loans, Mr. Zanoni, would you mind?
We can be very quick, but we need to be careful about having a discussion about a non-agendized item. But Mr. Zanoni, if you could just...
No, I know. Just basically is what I was wondering, like the percentage, like that was it. It didn't have to be mentioned and all in detail or anything like that.
May I ask Arthur a clarifying question, please? Arthur, this is Jeannie. Are you referring?
Yes.
Are you referring to the statement that was made about loans to the business community?
Tonight, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that was clarified.
About tonight.
Yeah, they're not loans; they're grants, so there will be no interest.
They're grants.
They're grants.
They're grants.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because I heard Chris mention, I believe it was Chris, that said that they were loans.
Yeah, that was corrected. That was corrected, Arthur.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it, though.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason why that you haven't seen me though too is because in count of that I moved in another area and hopefully I'm going to be here temporary though.
Oh, well, I was wondering. It's good to hear your voice.
Yes, I will. Yes, and thank you, Council, very much.
Thank you, Arthur.
And thank you.
All right. Next item, please.
Next item is the consent calendar, items 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Move approval.
A second.
Motion by Daniels, second by Schaefer. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller.
Aye.
Before we go on, may I ask a question?
Yes.
In our regional sanitation meeting this morning, we had the same item as our item 6, and it was stated that we were going to have to approve that in every meeting. Is that your understanding?
Correct. You have to do it every 30 days. So not every meeting for us, but every other meeting.
Okay, thank you.
The state law requires that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Next item we have is public hearing, item number 9. The subject is Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan. And the recommendation, there's a resolution to certify an environmental impact report approving CEQA findings and statement of overriding considerations and adopting a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, adopting a resolution, adopting a general plan map amendment for the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan, introducing for a first reading an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights, amending Article 5, Chapter 106.50 of the zoning ordinance, rezoning the property from shopping center into the Sunrise Tomorrow special planning area, and adopting a resolution adopting the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan.
All right, well, good evening, members of the City Council. I'm Chris Boyd, the City Manager. Tonight's public hearing of our Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan is truly a historic moment. I'm honored to kick off our presentation, and before we dive in, I want to take a moment to emphasize the amount of hard work and thoughtfulness that has gone into our plan. First, painting a vision for the future like we have done with the Sunrise Tomorrow plan takes an extreme amount of research and engagement. There's a reason other cities around the nation are looking to Citrus Heights as an example of how to drive revitalization of dying malls. That's because we've been bold in our commitment to the future, not taking this lightly. In our past workshops, council presentations, planning commission meetings, media interviews, we've underscored the hundreds of hours of research, the incredible level of expertise, and the unprecedented amount of community and owner engagement that has contributed to building the Sunrise Tomorrow plan. All that work culminates in tonight's hearing. We're presenting a data-driven, research-based plan that has the potential to shift our entire region's economic future. Our specific plan lays the groundwork for transforming a 100-acre Sunrise Mall site into a vibrant, mixed-use community, creating a destination for the community to live, shop, work, and play. And while the plan is momentous in that right alone, I also know that this project has the potential to serve as a national case study in how local government, when armed with motivated staff and an engaged community, can influence real, meaningful change when it comes to economic stewardship. I want to thank the thousands of engaged community members, our city staff and elected officials, the Gensler team, and mall ownership for taking this journey with us. Again, it's such an honor to present the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan, which has been years in the making. So I'll pass it over now and let our team take you through the presentation. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Casey Kempen, our planning manager. Can you all hear me okay and see the screen all right? Okay. Before I get started in the presentation, I just wanted to echo Chris's comments and echo how this is a team effort. Megan and I have worked hand in hand over the last 2 years, ups and downs, and getting this project to you tonight. But it wasn't just Megan and I, it was a giant team effort. We have just about every department in the city has touched this plan in some form or fashion. As I said, it was 2 years in the making, and it's a product of extensive collaboration between the project team, the city's stakeholders, owners, residents, and beyond. We also have a great team of experts here today on the Zoom. This includes Gensler, Fair and Peers, DeNovo, and Mark Thomas available to answer questions. Also would like to recognize the support and direction for this project from our city leadership. From meeting with the owners back in 2018 through tonight, City Manager Chris Boyd has provided the vision and support to navigate this often complicated and daunting process. I think Chris knew early on in his role as City Manager that we need to be proactive in the mall's future. Through his support and guidance, we are here tonight to present to you the specific plan. I'd also like to piggyback on the council's proclamation recognizing Colleen's contribution to the Citrus Heights community. And as Chris mentioned, her hands have touched just about every project in the city over the last 20 years. She has been deeply involved in this project as well, and I can't think of a better way to send her off into retirement than this project. Also, one point of order, the council, we received a late letter that was added to your packet. I think Megan emailed you last night from NAMDAR. As you know, we've been working closely with them over the last 2 years, and we received a letter yesterday from Eagle NAMDAR supporting this specific plan. In addition to that, you'll see a number of other letters of support from adjacent property owners, regional partners, including Regional Transit, SACOG, and GSEC. And with that, I'll get into the presentation. So tonight, we are moving forward to Planning Commission's recommended approvals of the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan. Last month, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended that the council take these actions. The first is to certify the EIR. The second is to adopt the specific plan. A third is amending the general plan and adding a new land use category called marketplace mixed use. including updated policies related to specific plan implementation, and then rezoning the property from special planning area and adopting it as special planning area. So first, the general plan amendment. Right now, the property is designated as general commercial. We are proposing a marketplace mixed-use land use designation, and this is the tool that allows us to have a really robust and densified and mixed-use product type here at the mall that we wouldn't currently fit in any of our existing designations. The general plan amendment includes minor text amendments that help formulate the marketplace mixed-use designation, and then updates the policy 12.3 that the council adopted a few years ago that really set this whole specific plan in motion. As you probably recall, that policy basically said the city needs to go prepare a specific plan to make sure we're protecting and preserving this property and getting the highest and best use. Well, we're nearing completion with that, and so instead of saying go complete a specific plan, it's saying you need to implement that specific plan. And then a number of actions that help guide that implementation, including being flexible when it comes to the rules that are in the specific plan, promoting it as a self-sustaining and fiscally beneficial plan, making sure that we have high quality design, and then make sure that we're considering uses that are walkable, pedestrian friendly, and making it a place where people would like to come. So the first thing that we do as a city when we consider adopting a specific plan is making sure it's consistent with the general plan. And I have on the screen here a few of the most relevant policies, but if you go through our general plan, this plan really ticks off a lot of those checklists of things that we've been talking about doing for years or have been doing in some form or fashion for a number of years, including focusing on the marketplace, returning it to its prior prominence and making it a place where people want to really spend time, money, work, live, and play. Transforming it and moving away from a only retail focus into a diversified land use perspective and adding services that we don't currently have. And then also making sure that it's not just a parking lot, there's open space and things for folks to enjoy as well. So I think if you reviewed the specific plan, you see all those themes carry throughout the plan. The next action we're requesting is to rezone the property to SPA. Currently, the property is zoned shopping center, and we would rezone the property to special planning area, which, as you know, we have a number of those. We have the Boulevard Special Planning Area, the Mitchell Farm Special Planning Area, and a handful of others. So this is a similar tool that would essentially, when you look at the zoning code, would point to the specific plan for the rules and regulations that apply to this particular property. In addition, we are asking the council to certify an EIR. The final EIR is comprised of these components, as you see here on the screen. The draft EIR was circulated earlier in the fall. Any changes that were required were made to that draft. And any comments received were responded to. And then, of course, making sure we have a mitigation monitoring plan to make sure that we are, as new development comes in, we're following the rules that are specified in the EIR. The EIR includes a statement of overriding considerations. The EIR found that there would be significant impacts that are not mitigatable in air quality and greenhouse gases. And so the statement of overriding considerations essentially says we recognize that there are these potential impacts, but the economic and other benefits that this project will result in outweighs those potential impacts. And then CEQA findings of facts, and that's essentially the document where we document the facts that help support our conclusions in the EIR. And then in a minute, I'm going to turn it over here to Gensler, to James and Nate with Gensler to go over the overview of the specific plan, but just kind of a couple of high points I wanted to cover. The specific plan really acts as the zoning and general plan for the site. It introduces new uses. It creates a ceiling for development. It also a holistic approach to the varying property owners and unique features of the site. It really is set up to be very flexible, and it is the long-term vision for the plan. With that, I will turn James and Nate over at Gensler.
Thank you, Casey, and good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. It's really a pleasure to be here this evening to share the details of the specific plan. And I'll just try to pull up my screen here. All right, hopefully everyone can see the presentation on screen. As Casey mentioned, the purpose of this project really comes from the general plan and the guidance that you've established in there to create a specific plan to guide the development of the Sunrise Mall property, to realize the city's general plan vision, which is to transform the mall into a premier regional destination, a flourishing center of community life where residents and visitors can shop, live, work, and play. And hopefully that's what we've accomplished with the plan that you'll be considering this evening. The existing conditions and the site to locate you is the current Sunrise Mall site, about 95 acres in size, comprised of multiple parcels with different property owners. And today there's about 1.4 million square feet of building area and about 6,400 parking spaces. And a little background on the project, of course, the mall itself actually dates back to the very beginning of Citrus Heights, even before the incorporation of the city. And it's really been central to the life of the city since then. In 2019, recognizing that fact, the city adopted the general plan amendment requiring a specific plan and really starting the process that's led us to tonight. So we began our work with the city, kicking off the plan project in October of 2019. And throughout that process, we've had a series of community workshops and also updates to you and the Planning Commission. In February and March of 2020, we were able to do that in person. And then since the pandemic, we've switched to a virtual participation method, but have continued to engage the community with additional workshops in June of that year, and then most recently in August. And we've also been working to present and provide updates to both yourselves and the Planning Commission, most recently in October. A few of the updates since the draft plan was released. We've worked with the city staff to provide increased flexibility to allow the plan to better respond to changing market demands. And as part of that, we've streamlined the process for minor administrative modifications that allows the planning staff to better respond to changes that may occur in the market or as are needed as the plan is implemented. And we've also updated some of the sustainability policies in the plan in response to agency comments and community comments that were received. And I just want to really emphasize and also thank all of the members of the community who've come out to help in this process, to share their ideas, to share their vision, both in person, online, in one-on-one meetings, and in larger group settings. I think you can see from the photos here, it really reflects a cross-section of the community. It's a testament to the depth of feeling that people have for this site within the city as an important part of this community, and the plan that we've been able to prepare, hopefully reflects that community vision, and our role has been to try to document that and create a document that will allow the community's vision to be implemented. Just a few metrics to share. The process began with stakeholder interviews. We had over 300 people at our first in-person community workshop and 200 plus people at virtual workshops. And with the project website, we've had hundreds of comments, over 12,000 website visits, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Over 82% of participants said they were very extremely excited about this project and seeing it come to fruition. And the vision that was articulated by the community members and is the guiding principle for this plan is creating a new heart for Citrus Heights. And here to talk more about that, I'll turn it over to our project director, Nate Cherry.
Good evening, council members, Manager Boyd, and staff members. It's a pleasure to be here. We started this more than, 2 years ago, and I wish I was there with you all, and there have been so many things that have happened between now and then. And what you're looking at, I just want to mention, is just, I think something that we should all be really proud of and excited about. It's a testimonial to a real alignment and leadership on the local level, a real example of functional local government and a real forward-looking plan. And what I mean by that is everything that you see in this plan is really a manifestation of what the community has told us that they really want to see. And so it's really a collaborative, co-authored plan. Some of the key elements I'll go through in a little bit of detail just to refresh your memory about some of the key parts and pieces that make it so great. Next slide, please. So the Main Street is really based on a real desire for people to have a place where they can come and walk, interact with each other, maybe have a business on the first floor, upper story office or residences that look out over the street, a place where you could walk and bike and interact and see community members, all those chance interactions that happen in great urban centers, that it's going to have a scale that's very much in keeping with what Citrus Heights is like, 2 to 3 story buildings with tree-lined small pocket parks and other opportunities where you can sit, have a coffee, and interact. And it's really going to revitalize the retail experience and provide a lot more dining and entertainment opportunities, really in a fresh format that is going to also feel very familiar because it's going to have that classic feel. So we're really excited about the Main Street as kind of the main spine of the project. Next slide, please. Many people talked most passionately, I think, about a place where everybody could gather. And that's really what Sunrise Commons is all about. It's a place where people can sit, spread out a blanket, throw a Frisbee, see 4th of July fireworks. It's really going to become the heart of the community, a place where everybody comes together. It's going to be that address that Citrus Heights is going to be known for, and it's going to feel so classic and familiar. Nobody's going to believe in 20, 30 years that it's relatively new. It's going to feel that familiar and that much a part of what Citrus Heights is all about. So that Sunrise Commons is something that people talked about over and over again as a place to gather, a place to meet, a place where the community can come together. And it's not just going to be for residents, it's going to be where workers come and have lunch, and also visitors who are coming to see Citrus Heights. And they're going to be really excited about the community pride that's focused around this place. And Sunrise Commons is going to be that iconic, imageable place that people are going to come back to over and over again. Of course, one of the most exciting things about converting this from an underutilized mall to something else is that we can integrate all these other uses. And so, the Sacramento market in general, the region, and Citrus Heights in particular, is really becoming a very hot market for millennials who are wanting to start a business in biotech and tech. And the Sacramento region is really extremely desirable for that. And Citrus Heights is very well positioned to get more than its share of office development and major employment. Why is that important? It creates another tax base for the community. It creates jobs. It creates a greater diversity to the economy. And it also creates a place, creates people, live bodies in the downtown walking around, buying businesses from local businesses and services. And so it really diversifies really what the downtown becomes and what it can be. So we really think an employment anchor is important to this. Next slide. Entertainment has always been a part of what people are really looking for. So, working with the landowners, I think a cinema is absolutely envisioned, but also other entertainment uses. Maybe a comedy club or black box theater, as well as outdoor events and other types of activities that really make Citrus Heights known as a place where people can have a lot of fun. So that's going to be an important part. And you'll notice it's at the other end of the street. So at one end, we have that employment anchor. The other end, we have this entertainment anchor. And so you're going to see people walking back and forth. It's going to have this great daytime, nighttime activity anchors that are going to make the street feel very vital and alive. Of course, one of the other things that people talked a lot about while we were doing our outreach is that they have family members coming to Citrus Heights and they have no place to stay. And so the opportunity for a variety of hospitality offerings is really important. Why is diversity so important in this asset class? Well, you need hotels for the businesses. You need extended stay hotels for workers who are going to be working nearby. And then you also need boutique hotels and full service hotels for family and residents who want to come and visit Citrus Heights. And so it really fills a need that many local residents were talking to us about that we need to have in Citrus Heights. Citrus Heights doesn't really have a hotel, and so this really addresses that opportunity and that need. And of course, you can't have a village without villagers. And so in this plan, we're proposing a wide variety of residential typologies, lots of different ways to live, all the way from multifamily apartments and condominiums to townhouses, all the way to duplexes and smaller types of houses. Why is that so important? Because you're going to have so many great amenities here and so many great open spaces that people are going to want to be a part of this neighborhood at a variety of price points. And so this diversity of housing is going to make Citrus Heights more affordable, and it's also going to provide opportunities for people to live in a more urban setting where they might not be that interested anymore in having a single detached house. Maybe they want to be part of an urban environment where they can, walk to a coffee shop or, see a play or, go to work within walking distance. All of those options are going to be really fresh and new and exciting opportunities that Sunrise Tomorrow offers. And so people are going to be really excited. This is going to be a very differentiated product mix that's going to be totally unique in this marketplace. And so a diversity of housing is really important for that. Of course, what's so terrific also about this site is almost a quarter of the site is dedicated to open space, and it's a wide variety of open spaces, all the way from walking and running trails to small paseos and courtyards, tree-lined streets, even to what we call agri-hoods, which have an agricultural piece near residential where you can pick up fresh vegetables for the week as part of a co-op. You have this tremendous spectrum of open spaces integrated throughout the site, and of course trees, so many trees. We're planting so many trees on this site. It's going to become it's going to feel almost all entirely like a park. It's going to be so green. And of course, multi-use paths, because we're creating blocks and walkable environments throughout the site. It's going to feel like it's really knit into the city with tree-lined streets. So we're really excited about that. And people are going to come here just to walk and to hang out. Next slide. And we call it a transit center, which is a bit of a misnomer. There's so much evidence now that younger people and working folks are looking really more for choices, mobility choices with how they get around. Yes, people are always going to there's going to be a certain component of people who are always going to want their own car and drive, and we've accommodated that. But we also have given people more choice in terms of bike rental, bike share, pedestrian connections, other modes, scooter and shuttle service that can all become accommodated on the site, and it gives people more choice in ways to get around. And there's a lot of evidence that says that employers are really looking for those mobility choices. And Mayor Miller, will, I'm sure, attest to this, that transit is really an important part of what future cities are all about. And so we've really started to think about that, and it's accommodated on the site. And we think that's going to be a big attractor for for development interest. In fact, we're already getting a lot of calls about the project and how the transit would work as a part of the mixed use environment here. And so we spent a little bit of time talking, and we wanted to really address some of the frequently asked questions. And so I'll take the first one, which is about how the plan responds to changes in the market. Is there really demand for office, hotels, entertainment, and residential? The thing to keep in mind here is two things. One is the full build out of this project, it's over 100 acres, is going to take at least a generation. There's going to be a lot of time and there's going to be a lot of change in the marketplace. And we're already seeing that people are moving from big urban centers and they're really picking second tier markets, and they're really interested in the Citrus Heights of the world as places to relocate, buy a house, start a business, and so on. And so we think, and there's a lot of evidence that proves this out, that flexibility and the ability to accommodate these other uses that might not necessarily have peak demand today, like office, hotels, and so on, are going to be really important as part of the lifestyle and the quality of life that the developers that we're talking to are really seeking out. So the market might not necessarily be primed for some of those uses today, but over time, it's been proven in project after project that that complement of mix of uses and the flexibility to accommodate a variety of densities, a variety of mixes of uses is going to be really important. And the other thing that's really important to mention is you have such a strong vision for this project that also helps you with your flexibility, because as long as you're adhering to that vision, you'll always be in good stead by accommodating these variations in the marketplace. Next slide.
Thanks, Nate. I'll talk about this next one that I know is going to come up tonight, I'm sure. People want to know, how is the project going to impact traffic? And we have, some great traffic engineers from Peer and Peers on the call who can answer that in more detail, but I'll just say at a high level, of course, looking at the traffic is a required part of the environmental analysis, and a full traffic study was completed. And one of the findings that I think answers this question more quickly is relative to Sunrise Mall at its peak, when the project is fully built out, there's projected to be about 375 more vehicle trips per hour in the PM peak period. So there will be more activity, but when you compare it to, the mall when it was fully operating, it's not a significant increase. And some of the reasons why the traffic impacts, are not going to be so great, we think, are because, a quarter of the trips that are going to occur, as we shared, are going to be people moving, from one part of the site to another. So those internal types of trips. And one of the other pieces that's going to help out a lot are some of the capacity improvements that are planned along Sunrise Boulevard, including widening or extending turn lanes, improving some of the signals that all help to mitigate some of the traffic impacts. So, it's true that there's going to be more activity at the site, but the analysis is showing that it's not a huge traffic generator. And I think one of the other points that the analysis didn't get into, but I think worth considering is Citrus Heights a place to drive to or a place to drive through? And today, a lot of people, we saw in the studies, are driving along Sunrise Boulevard, and they might be going from Roseville down to Rancho Cordova, and they're not stopping, they're not spending their money here. And by creating a destination in Citrus Heights where people can live here, so they might not have to drive as far to get to their job, or they can work here, so they might not have to commute out of the city to get to an employment opportunity. It's going to start to change the traffic patterns, and Citrus Heights and Sunrise Boulevard, it'll be less a place for people to drive through and more of a destination for both the community and the region. So we can answer that question in a little more detail if there's follow-ups, but that's a high-level look at how the project will impact traffic. And Nate, you want to talk a little bit about the transit? I mean, you mentioned that already about why we think the choice is important, but maybe speak to, is anyone actually going to ride the buses?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Sunrise Boulevard is a very busy bus corridor, and I think that's just going to continue. I think as traffic continues to get worse, people are going to look to other modes in order to get around, and so you know, those other options, you know, transit and bikes and ride share and so on, I think are going to be really important for giving people flexibility and choice. And that's going to help residents, it's going to help visitors, and it's going to help employees getting around, because you're going to be able to optimize how you get around with respect to speed, with respect to cost, and so on. So that transit center is really going to become a hub of activity, and it's going to really attract further development, because people aren't going to necessarily have to rely on driving every place, which ultimately is going to save time. I can only speak for myself, which is that, you know, I work in downtown Los Angeles, and I rarely drive to Los Angeles, to downtown, because it's just faster to get around by transit. And I think that's going to continue to increase, and we're going to see that in major urban centers and also in places that are popular and growing quickly, like Citrus Heights. And so this plan anticipates that and accommodates that with flexibility. The great news is that you don't have to implement all these changes to transit immediately. You have lots of flexibility, and the streets are designed in such a way to accommodate those other modes over time. And so that's a great alternative, because I do think the way streets are going to be used is going to change over time to accommodate these other modes. And we've thought about that in the design of this plan.
And that's a great segue to one of the other questions we get a lot. You know, who will develop and maintain the streets, the parks, the utilities, open spaces? And the answer is that, you know, the project developers, you know, when they go to propose projects, will pay for new streets, parks, utility improvements, including off-site improvements. And the open spaces and streets within the plan area are intended to be open to the public, but privately owned and maintained, so that the responsibility doesn't fall on the city. And of course, construction phasing and implementation, you know, is going to require coordination between the property owners, developers, and the city. And one of the things that will help that, following the adoption of the specific plan, is there'll be a process for executing development agreements with each of the property owners before development actually occurs. And those agreements between the city and the property owners or developers will spell out who's responsible for what and what the commitments are going to be ahead of time. And finally, Nate, you want to talk about this last point about the economic and fiscal impacts?
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the amazing things about a project like this is you have three types of employment. You have direct employment, you have indirect employment, and induced. So what does that mean? Direct employment are the jobs that are actually happening on the site. Indirect are the caterers, the food services, the you know, all the services that accommodate those jobs that happen adjacent or on the site, that come to the site in order to service those jobs. And then you have induced. What other employment opportunities does a diversified project like this create that create more jobs in the Citrus Heights area? Basically, what we're saying, that's a long-winded way of saying, is this is a job creating engine, this project, because it's so diversified. You're looking at millions of dollars in sales tax every year and thousands of jobs, not only through construction, but also long-time jobs on the site. Much more so, actually, than the mall did at its peak. So the opportunity and the potential that this project had is exponentially greater than what you have now on the site. And that's just going to, that's going to raise everybody's boat. That's going to increase property values. It's going to create jobs, and it's going to diversify the economy, which is going to make Citrus Heights quality of life that much better. You're going to be able to accommodate more events, other activities that are just going to make the city that much more compelling a place to be and live and work. So the last part is I just want to compliment everybody on this call and in the city. I have worked for many municipalities, and I can count on one hand the number of projects that I've seen more passion, I've seen more commitment than this community. The people are just so in love with this city, and it's been a real pleasure and a real honor to work on this project. I also want to mention the alignment and the leadership of the city is remarkable. It is a shining example of functional local government and a forward and progressive and optimistic view of the world. And this plan, I really think, is the culmination of all that thinking. The momentum of this project is unbelievable. I mean, COVID couldn't stop it. Nothing can stop this plan, I feel. I feel as if people really want to see it happen, and they're really optimistic, and they roll their sleeves up and they want to be a part of it. It's a co-authored plan with the community and leadership. And so it really captures, I think, what Citrus Heights is all about. I think it has tremendous potential, tremendous flexibility, and we're just thrilled to play a part in it, and we're open to answer any questions, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you on this fantastic project.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any comments or questions from council members before we go into the public hearing?
Not for me.
Okay. Hearing none, I will open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come up at this time.
I do not have any speaker sheets, and I do not see any raised hands.
Thank you, Amy. Seeing no one rushing up here to offer comments, I'll close the public hearing. And what is the pleasure of the council?
I'd like to make a few comments.
Okay.
So no questions, I don't think, but just comments regarding appreciation for the effort. In the beginning, when we started this, the one comment I made was, or request was that we received something realistic at the end and not just a pie in the sky, wouldn't that be wonderful kind of a thing. And we've taken our toe up to that line, I think, a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. And so what we have is something that could happen here in Citrus Heights if the right people come along and want to see this work. And so I'm very happy about that. It has a lot of the components that I really love about it, especially the entertainment area. I think that the future of Citrus Heights lies in that. And I would love to see us have some sort of, something like a 2,500 seat type venue where, we're bringing in acts that a lot of us appreciate still from our past, maybe that don't fill stadiums anymore, but they fill little niches. And so that's wonderful. I don't know that we'll see 3 hotels, but I think Citrus Heights can accommodate a hotel. There's a lot of things that go on between here and, let's say, Folsom. And you don't see a lot of hotels popping up in Folsom. And so I think we can benefit from that. But there's a lot of good things here. And the thing I hope people remember mostly, though, is that the city doesn't own the mall. It doesn't own the property. It can't do anything. It can't force anything. What we've done here is we've created kind of a blueprint as to what we'd love to see there. We've completed a very big hurdle in the environmental impact report, which allows development to happen a whole lot quicker. And we've set the stage. And so the next phase will be those that want to succeed in our idea, hopefully will come forward as we've talked about, and we'll see that development happening. And so very happy with it. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for all the hard work of staff. And it is something that I think we will see at some point in Citrus Heights. Thank you.
Councilmember Bruins, do you have anything to add? Okay. Mayor Miller, how about you?
Jeannie, if you were trying to speak.
I wonder if we're having some.
No, I was muted. I just couldn't get it going. Sorry. I couldn't get my screen to, shrink so I could get my unmute. Okay, so basically, I do want to thank the Ginsler Group for just partnering so closely with our staff. You become part of the team for this project, and that's so important. Also want to thank Chris Boyd, Megan Huber, certainly Colleen and her group, because none of us, I don't think any of us realizes how much goes into this behind the scenes. We see the result of it, and but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And so thank you to you as well. I think having an employment center as part of it adds synergy. Adds to the synergy of the project. Very excited about that. Couple of things I wrote down that I think are important to the philosophy around this project. One is the flexibility over time, because given what we're seeing today, we know it's not going to look like this exactly as it builds out. But the flexibility to address changes in the needs of the community and the economy of the community, and what is, we can't foresee that's going to happen in 10 years. I think it's very key to this project. Also, the diversity of the economy and how this is going to usher that in a much bigger way speaks directly to one of the goals that the council has put in place through our strategic planning sessions. And so I think it tells me that you've paid attention to what's important to us, and you, even greater than that, paid attention to what's important to the community. The opportunity for them to speak into this project has been enormous, and they have responded in kind. And I think each of us could say, certainly I can say that whenever I go or have a speaking engagement, the first question out of people's minds is what's going to happen to the mall? And it's so great to have this kind of an answer to that question. Very supportive of it. Thank you so much, and look forward to its implementation.
Mayor Miller, do you have any comments?
It doesn't appear that he is on the Zoom at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Middleton. Yes, a couple of years ago when this was presented, I looked at it and I actually spoke to lots of community members out there, and there was some optimism, a lot of optimism. There was also a little bit of negativity here. When I kind of looked at and I was on the Planning Commission when we had a joint meeting to discuss this, and I kind of saw it, I was excited about it, but I saw 100 acres worth of hurdles. And what I'm excited about is I want to congratulate interim city manager Chris Boyd and his team for a lot of hard work. And I read this letter from NAMDAR. With this letter, we found our stride in crossing those hurdles. This is incredibly powerful. I didn't think I'd ever see a letter of support from NAMDAR, from the owner of the Sunrise Mall. And is evidence of that. I'll read the one sentence that's really kind of powerful, and that is, we have been working closely with city staff to discuss redevelopment options for our property and support the approval of the Sunrise Mall specific plan. I thought I'd never see those words. So huge congratulations to Megan Huber, to Chris, to Gensler. This is wonderful news. We're not done crossing the hurdles yet, but like I said, I think we found our stride. I think we'll be able to forge forward and overcome some of the funding issues that we're concerned about. But I think that overall, this is very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll add my couple of comments. So based on the data that we received, we had over 500 workshop attendees, both virtual and in person, over 12,000 website visits. That lets us know that this is a plan that was, the vision what came from the city. We understood that we had to put our arms around this site to come up with a plan, but this is really a community-driven vision. All of that input lets us know that our community has serious buy-in, they're ready for this change, and they're excited about what's coming in the future. And I'm very excited that, Gensler and staff and interim city manager Boyd were able to incorporate our community to make sure their voices were heard. And this plan, you can tell, it's bold, it's big, but it reflects the dreams of Citrus Heights. If there are no other comments, I'll entertain some motions.
Well, I'll start it off by moving that we adopt the resolution to certify the environmental impact report, approving CEQA findings and statement of overriding considerations, and adopting a mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program.
Second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Daniels. Roll call.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller is absent.
All right.
Okay, I will also move that we approve a resolution adopting a general plan map amendment for the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan.
Second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Daniels. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller is absent.
I'll take
Okay, I will move to introduce the first reading, read by title, full reading of this ordinance, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights, California, amending Article 5, Chapter 106.50 of the zoning ordinance, rezoning the property from shopping center into the Sunrise Tomorrow special planning area.
Second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Daniels. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller is absent.
And finally, I move that we approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights adopting the Sunrise Tomorrow specific plan.
Second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Daniels. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bruins,
Aye.
Councilmember Daniels,
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Middleton,
Aye.
and Mayor Miller is absent.
Okay, next item, please.
The
I
next,
think we should cheer.
Oh, yay! Next item.
the next item is department reports, and we have none. The next item is city manager items.
Not tonight. Thank you. That made my night there. So thank you.
The next item is items requested by council members or future agenda items.
Any items?
Nope.
Okay. Looks like we are adjourned at 8:25.
Thank you.
Thank you all.